All right. Here it is, Mock Draft 2.0. Also, just remembered that this is the first time I've been on camera for a while, so I've missed y'all. Hope y'all are doing well. But Mock Draft 2.0 is going to be very, very interesting. And I want to get a couple things out of the way before we go into the mock here. Normally, Mock 2.0 for me is one where we take a little bit of a different path, where some picks are going to be a little bit different from what people normally would go towards. And there is some of that here, especially in the top 10. There's a little bit of a shakeup. But overall, I really wanted to focus on this draft being better than the last one. I saw all of your comments. I saw the feedback, and I took it to heart. And I really think that this mock draft is a lot better than Mock Draft 1.0. Some players have risen up the board. Some people have fallen off the board. So we're going to see some new players on this list that I'm excited to talk about. And speaking of those players and the prospect pool in general, for players that were mentioned in 1.0 that are staying in the same spot, they're picked by the same team, we won't touch on those people very often. I'll just elaborate a little bit more on why I think why they would make sense for that particular team. But for players that are in this mock or in last mock that maybe went to a different team, they'll get an elaboration on why I think they're a good fit. And for the new players, they will get the traditional treatment where we'll look at them as a prospect and then explain their fit with the team. So if you see me gloss over your team or gloss over a particular player you want to hear about, I apologize. That is why. I'll still try and give it a fair speech. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, this team picked this player, same thing as the mock, move on. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like carbon copy. The only three that I will say now as we move into the mock that fit that bill are the first three picks. And number one overall, I have the Raiders taking quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Number two overall, I have the Jets taking Arvell Reese, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. And then third overall, I have the Cardinals taking offensive tackle out of Miami, Francis Mauigoa. To me, those three picks are set in stone. I think those are going to be the top three picks in the NFL draft. So for future mock drafts, those three picks, unless something drastic changes, those will be the three picks. And I will just mention them at the start of each mock, saying, okay, the Raiders are taking Mendoza, Jets, Arvell Reese, Cardinals, Mauigoa. That's going to be the top three picks in my opinion. I don't expect that to change. They will remain as it is. But now we will go into the mock, and we'll start where things have actually changed. And that is fourth overall, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. This is a pick and a player that a lot of analysts have mocked to the Titans, and for good reason. Titans need a really good run game. A really good run game helps Cam Ward, and Jeremiah Love's speed, explosiveness, versatility could do so much good for Cam Ward and this offense. There's a reason why so many people have mocked it. But with that being said, with all the things that the Titans have done in free agency, that opens the door for them to take Jeremiah Love, who would be the best player available here. I think Jeremiah Love is a top 3 prospect in this entire draft class, and out of all of these prospects in the top 10, I think has the best chance of starting week 1 right away and being a great football player right out of the gate. I think he has the best chance to do that out of anybody in this class right now as it stands. And Tennessee is in a prime position to take that type of guy. And so that's why I have them taking Love here in this mock. Now we move to pick number 5, where the New York Giants select linebacker Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. And the Giants' next biggest need, other than wide receiver, is linebacker. And if he were to go to top 10, or go in the top 10, it would be here or in a couple more spots later down the line with Washington. But with the D-line that New York has with Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, all of that talent and great playmakers, he becomes a favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year if he goes to the New York Giants. With what they have around him and what they have up front, oh my God, it's going to allow Sonny Styles to go nuts. He would be really, really good if he went to the New York Giants, in my opinion. And if they were to take Sonny Styles, that would mean that they are comfortable with Malik Nabers, Darnell Mooney, Darius Slayton being their starting 3. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think they should take a wide receiver at 5, but it's hard to ignore that linebacker is a big need for the New York Giants, and taking Sonny Styles at 5 with the type of player that he could be, it is kind of hard to pass it up, if I'm being honest. Now we move to number 6 overall. The Cleveland Browns, they select Ohio State receiver Carnell Tate. And the Browns, they need an offensive tackle more than they need a wide receiver. But they also need a true starting wide receiver that they can count on, and Carnell Tate, I think, can be counted on. He immediately brings a vertical element to the offense for Cleveland, and with his exceptional deep threat ability, it'll help round out their receiver room where Jerry Jeudy can make plays over the middle of the field, a little bit more intermediate than a deep threat, although he can win vertically. That allows a guy like Isaiah Bond to be a more pure slot, and another guy that can push the field vertically with his deep speed. So you got an offense that could be really, really fast and high tempo here, adding Carnell Tate to that. And then like Cedric Tillman, he can be your physical X receiver, more of your red zone threat, right? So everyone has a distinguished role if Carnell Tate comes to the Cleveland Browns. And I just like the fit. And whoever is taking snaps under center for the Cleveland Browns, adding a receiver like Carnell Tate will help them put points on the board and also could do it in a hurry. Now we get to number 7, the Washington Commanders. They still select wide receiver Makai Lemon with how well he moves, how tough he is, how physical he is for someone his size, how willing he is. It's hard to not have the Commanders taking Makai Lemon. Now, some people have dropped Makai Lemon down on the board, and I can see why. Right now, I still like the fit with Lemon to the Commanders for what they're going to ask him to do and what he needs to do as a player. I think there's a lot of connective tissue here with those things I mentioned. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that pick could remain the same as of now, especially because linebacker is a big need for them that they obviously can't get now with Sonny Styles. Although they could go edge rusher. They really could go edge rusher and double dip after paying Odafe Oweh. I just find that hard to believe with all that they've added so far, but it is a possibility. Now we move to the New Orleans Saints at number 8. They still select Ruben Bain, the edge rusher out of Miami. And for the same reasons I talked about in 1.0, he is strong, powerful, high motor, relentless work ethic. Ruben Bain would help elevate the run defense of the New Orleans Saints D-line instantly. They need that. It would help them out oh so much. And what he could potentially provide as a pass rusher, you're talking about a physically dominant, constantly productive football player. If he's at his peak, Ruben Bain to the New Orleans Saints would make them a better football team up front instantly. And then we get to number 9, where we have another big change. The Kansas City Chiefs select edge rusher David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Now, I find it hard to believe that David Bailey could fall this far, but it is a possibility looking at how we've gotten here to this point, right? Like, you know, how getting here is not out of the realm of possibility, but KC, they need to retool in the trenches. They need to get better up front on offense and defense. Their lines have had a ton of turnover over the past couple of years, and they just need a great football player on the defensive line that's not Chris Jones. They need a great player on the edge. George Karlaftis is good, but he's not great. David Bailey has the potential to be great, and if he falls to 9, he will not go past the Chiefs. The Chiefs, if he is here at 9, unless there is a objectively better football player to take than David Bailey, which there is not in my opinion, there is zero chance the Chiefs will pass on David Bailey. If he falls here, that would be like a dream for them. And I also really like the idea of David Bailey working with Spags in that system. I think it could be a really good fit. Now we move to number 10, another pick that stays the same here. The Bengals take Caleb Downs, safety out of Oregon. While my original opinion on Caleb Downs being a generational prospect has kind of dwindled a little bit, is he generational? No, not really, but he is still a very good prospect nonetheless. The thing is, the Bengals, they need someone who can prevent big plays. That is something that really hurt this defense, and it's hurt this defense constantly. Adding Caleb Downs helps eliminate that problem. If the Bengals can just eliminate big plays on defense, that would help them out and would do so much good. And with Al Golden, you get a chess piece like Caleb Downs. He could be deployed in a lot of different ways and could be really good at preventing these big plays that have crippled this football team so much over these past couple of years. Now we move to number 11, and the Miami Dolphins select corner Mansour Delaney out of LSU. Miami gets the best corner of the draft at probably their biggest need on their roster. He is intelligent, high IQ, ran a 4.37 at his pro day. He will start day 1 for Miami. He will play well, and that gives Miami a really good piece to build around. With what they have up front, they have talent up front, and they have good enough linebackers to suffice. But if they can get Mansour Delane and build around him and build a secondary that complements his skill set, oh my God. Like, you're talking about a defense that could be one of the worst in the NFL maybe this year, potentially. I don't think with Jeff Hafley, maybe not. But you're talking about a defense that could be one of the lesser below average units from 1 year, and in a couple of years, you're talking about one of the best units in the entire NFL, right? So you have a lot of upside here, a foundational piece in Mansour Delane, and for them to get him here at 11, oh my God, it'd be so good for their program. And then number 12, Dallas Cowboys, they stay the same here as well, picking corner Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee. Obviously, they cannot get the best corner in the draft, but Jermon McCoy is cornerback number 2 easily to me. They need corner, and his length, his ball skills, his speed, all can really translate well into helping stop a lot of these elite receivers in the NFC East. And if he can just commit turnovers, even if he's allowing some yards, if he can just get turnovers, that would do a lot to help the Cowboys defense, where they used to allow a lot of yards, right? Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland were guys that were not clamped down. They weren't sticky in coverage, but man, they generated a ton of turnovers. And if Jermon McCoy can be something like that, that would be really, really useful. Although you would love to have a lockdown corner first and foremost, which Jermon McCoy has a lot of potential to be that guy. And then we get to 13. Los Angeles Rams select Dylan Thielman. I'm just kidding. No, they're not taking Dylan Thielman. They're actually taking Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah. And I really like this pick, not for how he's going to help now, but also help in the future. It never hurts to add a good tackle. And with Spencer Fano's movement, his mentality in the run game, I think he'd fit right into Sean McVay's system and that heavy personnel that they've used since last year, really much so. And it helps keep their O-line among the best in the NFL. And when you think about a new quarterback coming in after Matthew Stafford retires here very, very soon, I mean, it does not hurt to add an offensive tackle with the caliber that Spencer Fano is. I think that would be a fantastic move for them, and you have that position solved for the next decade with Spencer Fano. Now, number 14, Baltimore Ravens select Jordan Tyson, the receiver out of Arizona State. That remains the same for me. Jordan Tyson is the best receiver in this draft class if he can stay healthy. The injury concerns, I just cannot justify any team picking him in the top 10 with those injuries and with the hamstring that he's dealing with right now that hasn't fully recovered. I don't know. It's hard to see that. But the Baltimore Ravens getting him at 14, that would be fantastic. We talked about in 1.0 about how his speed, his route running, how he can just be a true superstar receiver at the next level. That potential is there, and that could give the Baltimore Ravens a new dynamic identity on offense that not only can run the ball well, but also you better pick your poison, because Lamar Jackson will torch you with Zay Flowers and Jordan Tyson at their best, of course. Now we'll move to number 15, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select edge rusher Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. And the Bucs land the technical master that is Akeem Mesidor, and the Bucs need a better edge rusher next to Yaya Diaby. Will Akeem Mesidor be an elite edge rusher? I don't know, but he is someone that will start day one and help this D-line get better right away. And with his ability to rush from the edge, kick inside, his high motor, high IQ will translate very well at the next level, I think, and gives the Bucs defense a piece that they can move around and get involved, get creative with. And also, the Bucs need a better pass rush. They need a better pass rush, period. Their secondary has suffered over the past couple of years, partially because the Bucs cannot get a pass rush. Their line cannot get to the quarterback, and the quarterback is having time to make the throws he needs to make, right? So you add Akeem Mesidor to this mix, and now you have a better pass rush up front that might be able to generate a few more turnovers than they were able to last year. Moving now to New York Jets at number 16 with their second first-round pick, and they go to the offensive side, selecting new player on the board, wide receiver Omar Cooper out of Indiana, someone who has shot up draft boards over the past week or so. The Jets need another receiver, period. And after adding Arvell Reese, I think going offense here makes a ton of sense. He is 6 foot, 200 pounds, ran a 4.4 40. He is explosive, physical, played exclusively in the slot last year for the Hoosiers, but has outside versatility. And Omar Cooper is a very solid player. He is a good route runner. He has good hands. He has a very high floor as a player, where Omar Cooper is going to start day one and he'll give you 700, 800 yards off the rip. I think he could do that. I think he could provide that for the New York Jets offense. And whoever is taking snaps at quarterback for the New York Jets, they will appreciate a player like Omar Cooper. Now, he needs to refine his route running a little bit. It can be a little inconsistent. It can be not as super polished as some reps. That can definitely use a little bit of work. And while he's a willing run blocker, he needs to be a better run blocker. So those are two things that I think Omar Cooper needs to get better at. But having two explosive weapons with Omar Cooper and Garrett Wilson, that would give something for the Jets fans to actually have fun watching for once, right? Let's have something fun to watch. Let's have two good receivers out there for the Jets playing well, of course. More than likely, though, they're going to have a quarterback back there that's just so garbage, and you're never not going to see them play well because the quarterback is so bad. What's new for the New York Jets, right? But we'll move now to pick 17. I have the Detroit Lions selecting tackle Monroe Freeling out of Georgia, cracking the top or tracking the first round for the first time in my mock drafts. And another guy, like I said, who has shot up draft boards, Monroe Freeling has some of the highest upside of any tackle in this draft class. He's 6'7", 315 pounds, 34-inch arms. He is a fantastic mover for someone his size. And that is the thing about a lot of these offensive tackles. They are athletic and they are great movers for guys their size. You're going to hear me say that a lot in this mock. And there is some things, though, with Monroe Freeling that are a little bit concerning. He only started 1 year at Georgia, and you can see it on tape. He is very raw. He needs time to develop, and that doesn't really fit with the Lions' timeline, but it is kind of hard to pass up on that type of talent compared to what's coming later. Not that it's bad by any means, but I think the Lions, out of most teams, they could probably take Monroe Freeling, and I could have faith that they will develop him and make him into a very good football player. But some things that I don't like about Monroe Freeling, his hand placement is not very good, especially in pass pro. It's just, you see like some of his, like, I don't know, I can't really explain it. It's just, I'm not so like technical into the game where I can explain like how you punch and whatnot, but seeing how inconsistent where his hands go, it needs to be a lot better. And also, for a guy that moves really well, he has some reps where his feet look like they are stuck in the mud. It's a little concerning, but honestly, that could probably be coached. That can probably be fixed. I'm not going to be like so concerned about it where it's like, oh yeah, he's not worth taking anymore. I think Monroe Freeling brings a lot to the table. I think he has a lot of upside, and the Lions would be one of the teams I would expect to get the most out of a guy like Monroe Freeling. Moving to number 18, now we have Dylan Thielman. The Vikings select the safety out of Oregon. They find one of their next defensive anchors, and to replace Harrison Smith with the range, the ball skills, the mentality, I think that Dylan Thielman has a great chance to be a really good football player with the Minnesota Vikings. And you look at what they have on the defensive side of the infrastructure that they already have in place, the system under Brian Flores, I like it a lot. I think it makes a ton of sense. And Dylan Thielman would be a really fun player to watch in year one with Minnesota if that's where he ends up going. Number 19, Carolina Panthers. Without Jeremiah Love, now they have to address their next biggest need, and it's a tough one, but it's offensive tackle. They select Utah tackle Caleb Lomu, and like I just said, Carolina's got a pretty big tackle problem. Ikem Ekwonu is hurt, coming off of a pretty major injury, and Taylor Morton, their right tackle, is on the last year of his contract. So taking Lomu here makes a lot of sense, and someone who is tough, he is toolsy, another great athlete for his size. If Ekwonu is healthy, and if Ekwonu is healthy, Lomu provides great depth right away as a backup offensive tackle, and then afterward, you let go of Taylor Morton maybe, and just like that, boom, you have your future tackle duo for years and years to come. I think that Caleb Lomu makes a ton of sense, and ultimately, if it's not Jeremiah Love, I think the Panthers will go offensive tackle with the concerns at that position right now. Getting into the 20s, we get another player that gets into the first round for the first time, and that is Linebacker CJ Allen out of Georgia. The Dallas Cowboys pick him, by the way. I didn't mention that, sorry. But Dallas gets a prototypical Mike linebacker here with CJ Allen that they desperately need. He's 6'1", 231 pounds, elite football character, a great leader, multi-time team captain. And on the field, he has great run stuffing ability. He gets downhill in the pass rush, good patience, good IQ, and a strong tackler. The only thing is, because of his speed, he ran a 4.5 40, and he's not a very twitchy athlete. His coverage ability is going to be very limited. But make no mistake about it, CJ Allen is someone who can raise the floor of this defense, and Lord knows that they need it absolutely. If their defensive line can be better in 2026, I think CJ Allen has a really good chance to play well and help elevate that unit a lot. Moving to number 21, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting receiver KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M, someone else who has really shot up the boards recently. Now, originally was late first round, early second round. Now is possibly going to jump into the mid rounds, potentially as high. That's how high he could go here. And being here, I'm gonna do a quick side note. I only had the Steelers picking KC Concepcion because I wanted the Chargers to pick Vega Lone. If Vega Lone is available at pick 21, I think that will be the move that Pittsburgh goes. But I really wanted the Chargers to pick Vega Lone because I had no idea where they were going to go, admittedly, if the Steelers ended up picking Vega Lone. But going to KC Concepcion and his fit in the Steelers offense, we talked about how he's super explosive, can score from anywhere on the field, has superstar potential. And you look at oh my goodness, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, and KC Concepcion. That is a great receiver room right out the gate. That is one of the better ones in the NFL. But the thing is, Michael Pittman is the wild card. He has 2 years left on his contract. After 2026, the Steelers have an out. So if Michael Pittman doesn't work out and you don't draft a receiver in the first round or in the top 100, who are you going to have after DK Metcalf? Nobody. So you might as well take a superstar potential playmaker like KC Concepcion here who can step up later into being a true number 2 receiver next to DK Metcalf. I think that makes a ton of sense. And for Mike McCarthy's offense, whoever quarterbacks for them, they have a great set of weapons to work with. Now we'll move to the Chargers at 22, and they pick Vega Lone, the guard out of Penn State. The Chargers, I forced this a little bit because the Chargers and the interior offensive line so at about 15 more so bad. It is de facto their biggest need. And to get Vega Lone, if they were able to get him, I would not be surprised if they traded up a couple spots to take him over Pittsburgh. But if they get Vega Lone, oh man, massive size, high IQ, plays with a nasty streak. He is exactly what the Chargers want to be. Physical, dominant, punch you in the mouth, and there is nothing you can do about it. That's what John Harbaugh wants to be, and Vega Lone will help reinvigorate that identity in that offensive line that can do such a much better job of protecting Justin Herbert. As bad as they were last year, they need this pick so desperately bad. Moving now to the Philadelphia Eagles at 23, wrong in-state team. They take offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson. This is a guy I left off in the first round in my 1.0 mock draft, and now I can understand why Blake Miller should be on this list in the first round potentially. They need an answer after Lane Johnson, and Blake Miller is that answer potentially. He is 6'7", 317 pounds, 34-inch arms. Once again, another fantastic athlete for his size. And also, he is an Iron Man, does not get hurt. He started over 50 games for the Clemson Tigers. So this is a guy with a lot of experience compared to some other guys in his draft class. And he is aggressive with his hands. He can diagnose twists and stunts. That's where that IQ really comes in, that game experience. He mirrors well. My big concern with Blake Miller is that he sits too upright. He doesn't really get his butt down, and that allows more cleaner, polished, powerful edge rushers to get him off his spot and make him uncomfortable. And also with his aggressive hands, he can get a little grabby. It led to some penalties in his time at Clemson, although last year he really got those penalty numbers down. So that's very positive. That's encouraging. But you give him time to learn and adjust, and he will be a staple on the Eagles' offensive line for years to come. I think he would be really well suited to learn behind Lane Johnson, and with this athleticism, the technique, his IQ, I think that he would be a perfect fit in what the Eagles want to do up front and what they want to be. Now we have our first and only trade of this mock draft. I didn't really try to mock any trades with this one. 2.0, for me, I usually try to make it more of a stick and pick. But honestly, I was like, you know what? Let's have a trade. Let's have just something here just for the sake of having it, I guess. Not great, I know, but I wanted something. And I have the Cleveland Browns trading down a few spots with the 49ers. And I have the 49ers here sticking and picking Kadyn Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Sorry. But here we go. Kadyn Proctor. Now we're going to catch our bearings. Kadyn Proctor, what we talked about in 1.0, massive human being. He's 6'7", 360 pounds. And to learn behind a guy like Trent Williams, who is also a massive offensive tackle, I think that's a really good parallel that could make a ton of sense for them. Kadyn Proctor, if he can get his weight down, lose about 15, 20 pounds, you're talking about a guy that can be a great mover in the run game, that can absolutely drive people off the ball and away from the ball. And you get a guy with a little bit of speed. Well, not speed. He really doesn't move that well at all because of his size. But you get that weight down, and you have someone that has a little bit of range of motion that can just get into his spot, get his hands on you, and lock you down. He needs some time to develop, but that's why you would draft him now, because he can sit behind Trent Williams and take that spot from him later. 25 overall, the Chicago Bears, moving now, will pick Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Peter Woods drops a little ways from where I had him in my first mock. I had him then going 16th to the Jets. But defensive tackle is arguably the biggest need on the Chicago Bears, and you pair that with what they already have up front. And to me, it would feel like the rich get richer here, because the Bears' offense is already in a good place. But this defense needs more talent, and Peter Woods, with how quickly he penetrates gaps and can get to the quarterback, get to the ball carrier, being able to wreck the interior, especially with the quarterbacks that are in the NFC North. Oh man, Peter Woods is a critical addition to the Bears that won't just make them a better team up front, but will really cause problems for these quarterbacks in their division. Next, we move to the Buffalo Bills, and I have them still picking Denzel Boston. 6'4", big, huge, physical X receiver that would round out the wide receiver room in Buffalo, allowing DJ Moore to be the Z and Khalil Shakir to be the slot. I still believe with my heart that the Bills will take a wide receiver in round 1. I know they have other needs, but I don't believe that Brandon Beane should play around with adding DJ Moore and calling it a day. You should not trade for DJ Moore and call it a day and say you fix your receiver room. Absolutely not. You add a talented physical receiver like Denzel Boston, and you make this receiving core for Josh Allen and for Joe Brady, their new head coach, the best it can possibly be. Now, we move to the Cleveland Browns at their traded down spot, and they select offensive tackle Max Ianacor. That's how you pronounce it, I'm pretty sure, out of Arizona State. Immediately, day one, he's going to compete with DeJuan Jones for that starting left tackle spot, but he does need time to develop. I don't think he's ready to start day one. In fact, he's not ready to start day one, but you look at a player that has great movement, great size. Even though he's 24, hasn't played football that long compared to other guys on this list, in this prospect pool, he still has, I guess it's like the tread. I say like the tread on the tires isn't there compared to someone else who might be coming into the draft at 24 years old. But if you can develop Ianacor, he could be the best tackle in this entire draft class. And you look at the Browns' history of developing offensive line and getting the most out of those guys. The offensive line has been probably the best part of the Cleveland Browns since they've come back to the NFL. I mean, you think about some of the players that they've had over the years, and I don't know, man. Maxi Nicor, if he develops, could be one of those next guys that could be so like relieving and such a good peace of mind that he is locking down your quarterback's blind side. And the Browns, they overhauled their offensive line. They need someone in the draft that is going to start for them for years and years and years and reestablish the continuity that they lost in this offseason. And then we move on now to the Houston Texans at 28, and they pick guard Chase Pasantis out of Texas A&M. A little bit of a reach, I will admit that. Chase Pasantis is not a de facto first-round pick. I would argue that he is definitely a second-round prospect. The only thing is, at other positions of need, who are the Texans going to pick in the first round? Like, unless they trade down, I guess, someone's going to want to trade up into the first round to select Ty Simpson. That's going to happen. And so trading down with Houston, that could make a ton of sense for them because then you get better value on drafting a guy like Chase Pasantis. But in this mock, they did not trade, so they take a guard where they need a guard, they need offensive line. It makes a lot of sense. And 6'5", he's 315 pounds, just under 32-inch arms. He has got heavy hands. He is a good mover, and with the Texans trying to be in between the tackles running team, Pasantis is someone who gets up to the second level, negates and neutralizes linebackers, and finishes hard with a little bit of a nasty streak when he needs to. His pass protection, though, needs work because of his lack of length. Sometimes you can see him get a little hasty, get a little bit of a hurry to make sure that he can get into a spot and get his hands on his man and make sure that doesn't, nothing bad happens, obviously. And also, he relies on his hands a little too much. When defenders get his hands out of the way, he's kind of beat at that point. So he needs to do a better job of having a counterpunch, having a counterattack in general to prevent, some of the elite edge rushers in the NFL just neutralizing him completely. But Chase Pasantis has a lot of upside, and with what he brings to the table and for what the Texans are trying to do and trying to be on offense, I think Chase Pasantis makes a ton of sense. Going to pick number 29, the Kansas City Chiefs select corner Colton Hood out of the University of Tennessee, someone who has dropped down the board a little bit. But Colton Hood here at 29 would be so good for Kansas City. They get premium with both of their picks, getting edge rusher and corner. And Colton Hood, someone who led the SEC in pass deflections. He is a smooth corner with good length, long speed, and his awareness in zone coverage and his ability to diagnose plays will be a really good asset in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. And they need corner desperately bad. So now you get a future number one corner in Colton Hood. Now we move to number 30, where the Miami Dolphins are here. Why are the Dolphins here? Well, if you've been living under a rock, they traded Jalen Waddle to the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos do not have a first-round pick anymore. So the Miami Dolphins have it, and I have them taking Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. They add the physical monster that Keldrick Falk is, and the Dolphins need more talent on defense. They have Zach Seiler and Chop Robinson up front. They also drafted Kenneth Grant last year out of Michigan State, I think it was. Yeah, out of Michigan State. But now you add Keldrick Falk to that equation. So now your defensive line is young, talented, and you mix that with a solid group of linebackers that Miami has. That could do a lot of good to help a young and inexperienced secondary. And if you want Monster Delane to play really well, you got to make sure that your front seven are firing on all cylinders. And you go back to Keldrick Falk and how he's so powerful, how he can collapse the pocket and kick inside if he needs to. But on the edge, he's just such a physically imposing and dominant player. He's going to set the edge and be a good contributor on rundowns immediately. And maybe he'll have a couple couple reps getting after the passer, but definitely will start early on as a rundowns. He will play on rundowns and then probably go off the field on third downs and has a chance to develop into a 3-down player later down the line. But I think that this would be a great way to reinvigorate the Miami Dolphins defense and add another talented piece that could really turn things around. Then we go to number 31, and the New England Patriots, they select not a wide receiver, edge rusher Zion Young out of Mizzou, adding on to the list of Mizzou pass rushers that have really been interesting prospects as of late. And the Patriots need to build through the trenches if they want to continue what they did in 2025. And he brings a lot of juice, power, and a lot of swagger to that equation. He is 6'6", 260 pounds, powerful, aggressive, great in run defense, sets the edge well, which is something that Mike Vrabel covets. He's a good block shedder. He knows how to use his length. He needs to add more moves to his tool belt, though, and needs to have a better pass rush plan. He doesn't really have a counterattack. Once he gets beat, he's kind of beat. But if he can develop to become a more complete three-down player, he could be a physical and mental tone setter for the Patriots defense and for opposing offensive linemen that have to line up against him every single week. Zion Young to the Patriots makes a ton of sense. I would love that pick. Then 32, we're going to round out the Seattle Seahawks at the end, sticking with corner Avion Terrell. Now, I will mention that earlier this week, Avion Terrell had a hamstring injury. I don't know what the extent of it is, if it's major, not major. Will it influence the Seahawks taking Avion Terrell, or will it prevent him or going into the first round? Does he fall here because of it? I don't know yet. But right now, I think it's still a solid pick for the Seattle Seahawks. Even though Avion Terrell is not the biggest, fastest corner, he's smart, instinctive, willing. And if you get a guy like that in Mike Macdonald's defense, he will contribute and make plays for you, plain and simple. That will not change for me as of right now. But with that being said, that is Mock Draft 2.0. Do you think it was a better mock? Do you think that a lot of the needs make a lot more sense? I know some things are a little bit different because I tried to do that in 2.0 like I mentioned. But let me know everything you guys are thinking in the comments down below. I really tried to make this one better, so please give me the feedback and let me know. Also, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you've made it this far, you might as well. It's free. And also, I'm trying to hit 300 subscribers. We're 2 away, so just hit the button. Hit the like button, subscribe button, and give me the 300. That would do a lot. I'd appreciate it. And with that being said, that is going to do it for this mock draft. Titans fans, if you are out there listening to this video, I will have a mock draft 2.0 for the Titans coming out very shortly. It will be my next video, whether it's later this week or early next week. I will have it out for you, so stay tuned for that. But that is going to do it for today's video. I love you. I appreciate you all so very much, and I will see you all next time.